So we are now in this phase again. There's blue ocean. Everything is still wide open, and you have a good chance to get some organic reach on BlueSky because it's not too crowded yet. And again, just going to BlueSky because you're pissed off on X is not really a viable business strategy.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Growth Hub podcast, the podcast for all things B2B marketing, for marketers, by marketers. I'm your host, Clément René, and today we'll dive into the world of social media with a specific focus on BlueSky, or as many people call it nowadays, the new Twitter. Of course, with only 35 million users worldwide as of early 2025 and 1 to 2 million daily engaged users on the platform, BlueSky is worlds away from well-established platforms such as Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Threads, or even Elon Musk's X, formerly Twitter. However, it's also true that BlueSky has been living some sort of a second life since the end of 2024, with millions of new users making the shift from Twitter, likely due to the close ties between Musk and Trump. Now, politics aside, this newly found attractiveness puts BlueSky on the map for businesses, as they should obviously try to be active where their audience is. Now, if I'm being honest, I haven't been active on Twitter for quite some time, but I also didn't necessarily make the jump to BlueSky. And for that, I have questions. And so, in this episode, I'm joined by Michael Kamleitner, founder of Walls.io and Sweat.io. Both are SaaS companies designed to help businesses improve their presence on social media platforms, including BlueSky. Michael has been living and breathing social media for over 15 years now, and through Walls.io and Sweat.io, he has privileged access to witness firsthand what moves the needle on social media platforms. And so in this episode, Michael will let us know whether BlueSky is simply a Twitter with moderation, what makes BlueSky a serious social media platform for B2B companies, how to leverage UGC in B2B, the best practices to follow to get started on BlueSky and build a relevant and engaged audience, as well as some pitfalls to avoid for community building. And he'll also share some thoughts on the next big phase in the world of social media. And so here we go for episode 111 of the Growth Hub podcast with Michael Kamleitner, founder and CEO of Walls.io. Hey Michael, and welcome to the show.
Hi Clem, thanks for having me.
Well, I said a few words about you in the introduction, but can you maybe tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, a little bit about myself. My entrepreneurial journey, if you want to call it that way, started almost 15 years ago. I used to be a software developer until then, and in 2010 started to experiment with the social media APIs, which were like a pretty hot and new thing back then. So Facebook just launched their platform, their API, and I was immediately fascinated by the ability to build little apps on top of Facebook.com and other social media platforms. Like back in the day, we had MySpace, and in the German-speaking markets, StudiVZ, if anyone has heard about that. So I found it very, very interesting and fascinating. And on top of that idea, built my first business, which was an agency, a very small boutique agency focusing on the tailor-made custom development of marketing apps on top of these social media platforms.
But then one of the reasons, we started discussing a while ago to have you on the show, but lately we were discussing, and then we decided that BlueSky was maybe an interesting approach. So I myself have been eyeing BlueSky quite a lot, but have not necessarily made the jump in a way. So my big question to you to get started on this journey, and maybe a question that a lot of our listeners and viewers have, is BlueSky a Twitter or X with moderation?
That's a interesting way to put it. I would say no. It's a very short answer, but maybe let me like get step one or two steps back. So I've been in touch with social media platforms since more than 15 years from a developers and marketers perspective. Out of that agency business that I mentioned, me and my team, we built and then later spun out 2 independent SaaS products, both their own companies now. So that is why I'm looking back at quite a long history with the social media platforms. And of course, with both our products, since they are social media marketing tools, for us it's always very important to stay on top of the new platforms that are coming and going and the changes that are happening in the ecosystem. So that's my background, and that's why hopefully I'm a little bit qualified to talk about the subject of BlueSky. So in the end, what makes BlueSky unique or potentially unique is its decentralized architecture. Not so much the product. The product, if you look at it, it's very similar to X or Twitter, right? I'm not sure how it is for you, but if I have both tabs open in my browser, I sometimes even confuse them. And I'm scrolling through a BlueSky feed, and then only 5 minutes later I realize, oh, I'm on BlueSky and I'm not actually on X. So the product, of course, is very similar. It's a short message sharing service. Focusing on text messages, of course, and so there is not too much difference here. But a decentralized approach is, I think, what makes it different, and also what boosted its popularity in the recent 1 or 2 years.
My follow-up question to this, when it comes, for instance, like to its growing popularity and let's say like what makes it like a serious contender for B2B companies, is the fact that you can, unless I missed something, you cannot yet advertise on BlueSky, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So advertising obviously is a big growth engine for businesses. So, and considering the amount of work needed behind, building organic communities, what makes BlueSky then such a serious contender, considering again that you cannot necessarily advertise on it just yet?
Yeah, so I think the jury is still out on the question whether it's a really serious contender for businesses, for marketing purposes. I would actually object to that statement, at least not at the moment. So what we are seeing right now is that we have 3 or 4 major contenders in this short messaging social media space, and I would say, or I think it's clear that the space opened up mostly because X, or Twitter as it was called back then, was taken over by Elon Musk 2 years ago, which brought some, I would say, significant changes in policy on the platform. And whether you like Elon Musk or not, or whether you like the changes that we have seen on X or not, that is up for debate, and of course we can debate that as well. But one thing is clear: the changes opened up the space for new contenders, and the contenders basically, I would say, are 3. That's the open source platform Mastodon, which had its heyday actually even before the Elon Musk takeover. Yeah. Like I think 2 or 3 years ago, it was popular for a while. Then of course we have Threads by Meta. And we have BlueSky. So that's the 3 contestants in this short messaging space, particularly. And from a business perspective, a B2B or marketing perspective, of course, it happens all the time. A new platform is rising in popularity for whatever reason, and of course, marketers of all kinds see like a blue ocean where they can start over again, where the space is not too crowded yet. So the smart marketer sees a chance to plant their stake on a new ground, and that's also what's happened with BlueSky. Whether that's sustainable and meaningful value from a business perspective, I think is still open and will only be seen over time. And I think what you mentioned is actually very, very, very good point. If you do social media for business, advertising is a very strong component of that, and in that regard, of course, only X and Threads are offering advertising right now. So I think with Threads only this week they have opened up the advertising platform, at least in the US markets. I don't think it's a worldwide rollout yet, but that is definitely something that BlueSky does not offer yet. So in this regard, I would even say BlueSky has some catching up to do in that regard.
Yeah, and I mean, one could expect that eventually it will happen.
Yes. And that's where I would ask everyone to be realistic. So of course, a lot of people flocked to BlueSky because they were just frustrated with the changes that Elon Musk brought to X. I would say, understandably, I was affected myself in various ways, so I can relate to that emotion. But again, just going to BlueSky because you're pissed off on X is not really a viable business strategy, right? So we are now in this phase again. There's blue ocean, everything is still wide open, and you have a good chance to get some organic reach on BlueSky because it's not too crowded yet. But if the platform grows in popularity, the same thing will happen as with all platforms happened in the past. The feeds get fuller, clogged up. There will be more algorithms involved pushing, choosing the content that you actually see. Right now you see everything from your followers, of course, as it was back then with Facebook, X, and so on. But every platform in the end is the victim of its own success, I would say, right? And at that point, of course, also advertising starts to play a bigger role from a business perspective.
When you mentioned, just remembered some a very strong sentence I heard regarding people moving from Twitter to BlueSky, or leaving Twitter altogether, and specifically businesses making a big deal out of leaving Twitter and publicly announcing, etc. But then I heard, I cannot credit them because I just don't remember where I heard it. But basically they were saying the statement is not leaving Twitter. The statement is staying on Twitter, considering the lack of moderation at the moment. But it's not necessarily a discussion we need to fully dive into. But that was something that was quite interesting.
No, and so I'm happy to dive into that. So I can only give you my perspective as a tool, as a person who has built two marketing tools, and both are firmly in the social media space. I can give you my experience from my two companies, and it's a bit different actually. So my first company, SWOT.io, is a social media management tool. So think Buffer or Hootsuite, but usually for larger teams. We're doing business mostly in the German-speaking markets. So and those are quite unique because in the German-speaking markets, this exodus from companies going away from Twitter was actually stronger, I think, than if you look into the US. So in the German-speaking markets, maybe in whole of Europe, the idea of using X as a marketing or business channel is basically almost over, and partly because nobody wants to be associated within a content feed where all kinds of things are allowed, whether you like them or not. So that's completely understandable that from a brand perspective, you don't necessarily want to advertise on these platforms. From a user's perspective, and I'm still a daily user of X, I have to out myself. It's still my primary social media platform when it's about my favorite recreational social media platform. Let's put it like that. I use LinkedIn for business, but it more feels like work to me. And X is still my recreational choice when I go to social media. From a user's perspective, you can also see that easily because you get a lot of ads in your X feed, and it's usually not from any established or well-known brands, right? It's political ads, it's crypto ads. A lot of it is fishy or scammy, but you don't see Coca-Cola advertising on X, right? So that proves the point that X as a viable business communication platform, I think the idea is largely gone by now.
Yeah, that's a very interesting insight in this, from a active X user also to compare, because I also I was not necessarily super active on X to begin with, but I have to admit that I have not really been on it also for quite some time.
Yeah. And maybe to add on that, so my second company is called Walls.io, and it's a social media aggregator, and we are doing worldwide business there, a lot of US business on our product. I think in the States or in America, it's still a bit different. So there is probably more brands or businesses still active on X, but I think there's also some change coming. So it's also decreasing in importance as a marketing tool. However, and that's maybe might sound like a contradiction, but I don't think it is. While it is not such an important channel for brand communication anymore, I would still say it's still the go-to place when you're looking for like that global marketplace of conversations, right? That it's still the go-to for real-time conversations around any topic, really. So that's interesting. So people are still there. People are still communicating. A lot of stuff is questionable, of course, depending on on where you're standing on the political spectrum. But it's still relevant.
At least I haven't heard that many journalists leaving the platform. So like they're like, if you think about how information is circulating to begin with, like X is still, as you said, like it is in the center of the game.
Yeah, and again, that's a moving target, I think. So in Austria, we had, I think a few months ago, a quite strong movement of journalists actually leaving X for BlueSky. So there is there are these waves of people who want to get out and look for something else. So at least that's true for Austria. I think there was similar developments in Germany, but it's still not really clear. So you're right, for journalism and politics and real-time news, really, there's still no way around that. And that's, of course, also the challenge. That's the major challenge for BlueSky to establish itself as this sort of marketplace of opinions and real-time conversations.
I also wanted to take you on the path of user-generated content.
Yeah, sure.
Because obviously one thing that comes to mind when it comes to building audiences on a social media platform is obviously community, and therefore user-generated content plays a big part in there. Now, as you mentioned, also like Walls.io is a lot about social media. And there's something I've seen on your website, and I'm quoting there, like you guys are like unlocking the power of user-generated or user-created content and stories. So I can definitely, and I'm sure that our audience can 100% see it also like happening in a B2C context. And whenever I'm thinking UGC, I'm going back also to my like school projects, and like teachers were always putting like GoPro, like look at what they're doing, or, you know, like Burberry, for instance, like all of those big B2C brands. But I wouldn't say that B2B examples are that numerous, or are they?
You mean examples, B2B examples in UGC in general, or on BlueSky?
In general, like UGC example in general, and then like that could also, in a way, be like deported on BlueSky.
Yeah. So maybe let's take a step back. What we're doing with Walls.io is we are giving an online marketer a powerful tool to collect all that user-generated content for your brand, for your hashtag, for your company, or your event. So events is also a very big use case for us. So at the core, we are a social media aggregator, collecting all these user-generated content and allowing our customer to curate, moderate the content, and then reuse it in different channels, whether that's a TV screen or a widget on your website or an embed in your mobile app. Anywhere you want to use authentic user-generated content to drive your marketing goals, you put in Walls.io. So that's what we are doing. Now, it really, to answer your question, where does this happen and where is the UGC coming from? That's ever changing, of course, and it is very dependent on factors like your markets, your geography. Where are your customers? Which platforms are they on? Is it a B2B or B2C use case? And it boils down even to the single particular company. Where is your community talking to you? Our approach to this and our solution to that is, of course, to cover as many platforms as possible. So a marketer would like to choose a tool that covers as many social media platforms as possible, because you never know where your community will go tomorrow, and you need to be on the lookout for that. So for many B2B companies, to answer your question, there is actually a ton of UGC out there, but it's probably not happening on BlueSky or X. Maybe it's happening on LinkedIn. In fact, it does happen on LinkedIn a lot. So a lot of B2B events or trade shows actually get a lot of content on LinkedIn. So you gotta be there. If you are thinking about a company that is doing employer branding, so they wanna use UGC to promote their open jobs, their recruiting website, for example. Again, LinkedIn might be interesting for you, but actually it turns out, TikTok is a thing now. If you want to recruit millennials or Gen Y, members of the Gen Y, you actually should look on TikTok. And we do see a lot of our customers finding employee-generated content, which is just like a subset of user-generated content, actually on TikTok. So that's just two examples which are not immediately clear, that you really have to think about where is the conversation happening, and can vary a lot about depending on all these factors that I mentioned. And that's also true for BlueSky, of course. So at the moment, it's probably not the strongest platform for UGC for most B2B companies. That hasn't happened yet, but again, you should be ready to be there once your community chooses the platform.
If we put then that UGC on the side of the table in a sense, assuming again that people listening to us or watching us on YouTube are either about to start on BlueSky or like interested in it, or maybe like started but like don't really know what to do in a sense, and considering that as I said before, like obviously it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of time to build communities. So UGC aside, what would you say are the best practices to follow that are very specific to BlueSky to build a relevant and engaged audience?
Actually, I think the strategies don't differ so much from other platforms, especially from X or Twitter. So the first advice would be to really make a strategic decision which social media platforms you focus on, especially in the beginning. As you said, it's also a matter of the amount of resources you can spend on social media, whether you are doing social media as a founder on the side or you have a social media marketing team with a headcount of 10. Of course, it's a big difference, right? Of course, luckily there is tools like SWOT.io which can help you cross-publishing and stuff like that. But it's still a strategic decision to say like, okay, I want to focus on BlueSky. And then, of course, it's the standard playbook of building your community, looking for other people who are talking about your subject, about your topic, connecting with them, commenting on their posts, following them, recommending them to others. So basically, the standard community building playbook that was valid on Facebook, that is still valid on X, will also work on BlueSky. I think one interesting aspect of BlueSky is building lists or feeds. So you can build those lists and feeds and collect posts from like a bunch of accounts related to your topic. So you can create these feeds to really show your expertise, to curate content from other users. So that is an interesting approach to make yourself to provide value to people following you. That's basically it, right? So be a curator and provide value. That's maybe especially interesting on an upcoming platform because I'm not sure about you, and I think BlueSky does a decent job of recommending some profiles, and they have these starter packs where they bundle recommended accounts. That's all good, but still, very often you come to a new social media platform and you're wondering, hey, whom shall I follow? So this part of exploration and finding good content is something that is not solved, in my opinion. And as a brand, as a business, you can of course help with that by using these curation tools. So that might be a specific approach that I would recommend on BlueSky.
Okay, and then similarly, again, like based on your experience and what you often see with your customers and what works, what doesn't, what are things that should absolutely be avoided? Again, for BlueSky, like specifically to BlueSky, but I guess valid for other social media platforms for community building. I don't have a good answer to that, to be honest. I would say like I can only turn the question around. What should be avoided is inconsistency. Yeah. So if you make the strategic decision on being present on a platform, you gotta be consistent. You gotta do it not just for a few weeks and then give up because nothing is happening. You need to give it some time, a year, maybe more, and to really see results. So what should be avoided is
expecting super fast results and rocket-like growth curves. It takes a while to build audiences, and that's also true for all social media platforms. Probably it's even more true if you don't have advertising to boost your growth, like on BlueSky. So you probably need to be even more patient with organic growth. So inconsistency and impatience would be the things that should be avoided.
Yeah, to this I would have added also like the looking at your own belly button a bit too much, maybe.
That's a totally fair point. Again, that applies to all the social media platforms, I would say. I don't know. Maybe actually on Instagram or on a more visual platform, it's actually okay to be very self-centered.
Fair enough.
But you could argue that, I guess. But on a platform like X, or BlueSky, I think you're right. I think it boils down to providing value, really, right? And usually you don't provide value if you just post about your recent blog post every week. I mean, that's nice, of course, but not what most people would feel is very valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's about like starting conversations on a platform that is all about conversations. I guess that's the way.
Yes, and the nice thing
or
about
joining conversations.
and the good thing about these platforms is. So it's very easy to join existing conversations, right? And that actually should be your first mission, because at the beginning you will unless you are a well-known brand and have some leverage to kickstart your BlueSky presence, like you're leveraging another successful social media platform, for example. If you have a large following on LinkedIn, you might be able to kickstart your BlueSky presence from there. But if you don't have that, if you basically start from zero, it's probably very hard to start conversations because nobody will be listening. But the good news is by using the search feature, basically, you can join any conversation that is already going on, and I think that should be the first measure. Actually, that's also a good advice when you're unsure whether it is the right time for your brand, for your company to actually join BlueSky. The first step, of course, is to just see what's going on there. You will find out that for some industries or for some types of businesses, there's not a lot going on there. For example, the whole software as a service startup conversation bubble, which I'm a big part of, and a lot of my X content is coming from that bubble. Turns out that hasn't made the switch yet, so there's not a lot going on in that regard on BlueSky. So. What does that mean if you're a SaaS company? Well, usually I would say it means, okay, then probably BlueSky is at the moment not your primary platform. Of course, you could also turn this around and make it an advantage and say like, hey, I'm the first person on BlueSky talking about software as a service. So maybe I can become the number one voice on that platform. That's a gamble and your decision to make, but that should be the thinking you do before deciding for or against BlueSky.
That's actually a good segue in a sense, like we're just talking about what could be in the future in a sense. So I have a crystal ball moment for you.
Oh my God.
So considering we've had the era, if we go back, you were mentioning MySpace earlier. So we've had the era of like microblogging and like short video or like video content in a sense. The visual content or like infographic era, maybe like around 2013 or something, 2012. Then we had the era of like short stories and videos, which I guess we're still kind of in it. What do you think will be, and that's, I guess a big question. What do you think will be the next big phase in the world of social media? And if you have some sort of an idea, what do you think it will mean for businesses?
Look,
billions of people are listening to this.
If I was that smart or that visionary, or if I had that crystal ball, I would probably not build marketing tools on top of social media platforms, but I would probably be the one building the social media platforms if I was that smart. But you actually you put it in a very nice way. These different phases and types of content that were hyped or popular. That's actually someone should write down that the timeline of formats or social media content types. That's a very interesting way to see it. Look. I think the only thing that is fair to say is that the future of social media will be heavily shaped or impacted, or already is impacted by artificial intelligence, of course. So the good thing is you can answer any question these days with AI, and you're probably right. So and I guess this will also be true for social media. How that will play out, I don't know. And to be honest, I'm maybe even a bit skeptical about that for various reasons. I mean, there's already experiments going on, right? I think Meta did experiment or launch some AI personalities. I think on Instagram. I'm not 100% sure.
On Instagram, yeah, but I think they removed them fairly.
They removed
quickly.
it again.
Yeah.
Luckily, I would say. I mean, for me, it goes against a lot of principles on why you build social media platforms in the first place. But let's be honest, this will continue to happen. Actually, it is already happening, right? Bot networks are getting smarter thanks to AI, and X is flooded by them partly. So that is already happening, and brands will try it out. Not just Meta, but probably also not just platforms like Meta. Maybe also brands themselves will experiment and try it out, and it will come to a point where it's really hard to distinguish from real users. Whether that's good or bad is up for you to decide. I mean, I don't like it. There's also another aspect which I'm critical about. We are talking about user-generated content in our company a lot at Warsaw. Of course, it's the thing that we are doing, right? We have this very strong belief and proof also that authentic content posted by your real customers, your real community, your real event attendee is really a powerful marketing tool. I think it's obvious, but it's highly accepted that these authentic messages are drive more conversions and are more believable than what the brand actually says about themselves. So, of course, that's the whole premise of UGC in business, okay? And now we are entering a world, or we are already in the middle of the world, where actually it's not user-generated anymore, but, LLM-generated or AI-generated content, AGC, if you want to call it like that, I don't know. And so if you ask me, that's actually like contradicting with the whole idea of UGC. So I'm actually critical of that. If user reviews or comments, if I post from a trade show I'm visiting, is 100% AI generated, I believe, or for me it's obvious that the value of the authentic message is gone, basically. So that's why we as a business, I as a founder of Warsaw, am actually skeptical about that. And I think many of our listeners will probably can relate to that when you scroll through your LinkedIn feed in particular. I don't know how your experience is, but for me, at least every second post I read screams AI.
Yeah, you can read a lot of like delving and elevating lately.
Yeah, and like I said before, that's also why to me LinkedIn. Visiting LinkedIn or reading on LinkedIn for me actually feels like work because I know it's 90%. I'm making the numbers up, obviously, but I'm feeling like it's 90% of the content generated or written / generated by people driving their business goals in a more or less subtle way, and skimming through this feed actually for me feels like work. That's actually something that I feel is much better on these short message platforms like X or BlueSky. There's still more authenticism in the posts there. At least that's my opinion. So long story short, I'm rather critical on the impact and the change that will be brought to social, or is already brought to social media by AI. I'm not sure if that is the answer that you were hoping for, but that's how I see it. Maybe one aspect I find more funny or more on the lighter end of things, and maybe that goes back to how you phrased the question, these phases of content types, right? I just had this realization 1 or 2 weeks ago that we suddenly entered an area or a phase where the traditional meme could be replaced by AI-generated memes. And what I mean by that is, so we all know memes. We all know I'm blanking. Give me like a favorite example of a meme.
My favorite is definitely the Fry from Futurama being like super skeptical.
Yeah. So for example, or the all is fine here and the room is burning, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's a classical, typical meme. And now we are suddenly, and I don't know, I only recognized this 2 weeks ago, I think, with the appearance of on ChatGPT this Japanese comic style. I can't spell it. It's something like Gilly Billy or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember the exact name. And that's when I realized suddenly that maybe this is the first AI meme that we are seeing, because suddenly everyone was creating these images, these photos in the style of this Japanese artist. And then 1 week later, the same happened, or is still happening, I think, with these plastic packed action figures. So that's the second AI meme that I realized. So that's actually an interesting phenomenon, which I don't know, will also get boring maybe soon. I don't know if these AI memes will have such a long shelf life or life cycle as the mentioned traditional memes. Let's see. I don't think so, but at least that's an interesting development.
Yeah, but maybe still it lacks some authenticity. And going back to those phases, maybe this is the next, or like maybe there will be those two phases going together, in the sense that there will be the AI fueled one, lacking the authenticity that we're. Yeah, like, I mean, when I'm scrolling on LinkedIn, I definitely also see the AI from the real thing, in a sense. So yeah, maybe the winners will not be then those taking, I guess, I would call it at this point the easy way out. Because of course, like authenticity, creativity, that requires maybe a little bit more time, but maybe I was about to say, like, maybe like the winning formula is like not to or like of course we should not use AI. I think AI is a fantastic tool, but if you use it to your advantage, if you let it maybe like eat what makes you, eat your brand, eat your messaging, then you're just one in a million other brands talking the exact same way because they use AI the exact same way.
I fully agree, and I think there's some tools that do it right or much better, that really like help you on the inspirational side, to basically be the AI is the sparing partner for idea generation. Maybe one of those tools is Scribe. It's an Austrian company I'm also involved with. They're doing like it's a LinkedIn assistant basically for content writing, and it takes care that it really tries to write in your own voice and things like that. So there is, of course, a justified way to use these tools. It's just at some point getting too much if it's used carelessly and then just to generate like pages of content on LinkedIn that probably no one will read. And actually what you said, I think I agree. If you want to see it like in a positive light, and of course I usually do, things like that will also open opportunities for those who decide to remain raw and direct and really authentic, no matter which platform, I guess. So the more people will put out boring generated content, the more the door will open up for those people who are offering something different.
Now, this one thing that I always ask my guests on the show before I let them, continue with their day. So what is a piece of advice you received that made you a better professional?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I neglected for too long, being a solo founder and being very much focused on my day-to-day and what I'm doing and things like that. I think the advice that I should have gotten earlier, or at least listened to earlier, is build a support network, get a good mentor, find someone who has a few years more experience than you in the line of business you're doing, and make them your mentor. However you achieve that, by giving them some shares in your company, or I don't know. But find that person you can rely on, and because there's so much advice out there, of course, and you have maybe 20 other founders in your peer group, and everyone has their opinion, and all good and fine. But having someone on your team for the long run who really knows your business and knows what you have been going through in the past and can connect all these dots, that would be the most important advice.
All right, well, that's fantastic. And I was just thinking, also going back to our previous conversation, that it would be very interesting to listen to what we were just saying, maybe in 2-3 years' time, to see how right or how wrong we were.
The internet never forgets.
Yes, maybe, yeah, that is true. But then again, there's so much content, with a bit of chance, if we were wrong, this will be drawn somewhere under a carpet,
I don't hope so. Well, we can always let our AI assistants dig it up again and repost it on LinkedIn.
Let's do this. But Michael, thank you so much. I think this was very inspiring, very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me. I enjoyed it too. Have a good rest of the day and a great weekend when it's time.
And this concludes today's episode. I hope you learned a thing or two, and if you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This podcast is brought to you by marketing agency Advance B2B. So if you're looking for a partner to assist you with strategic marketing and anything HubSpot, visit advanceb2b.com. And if you're still around to hear this, thank you for listening and take care.